3, 2, 1.
Problem already, but we've got a sentence in.
Alright, well there's a bit of delay there.
What's happening? Are you hearing it twice?
I was, but not anymore. Welcome.
Okay, just go.
Sorry about
go
that.
intro.
Welcome to Geeks of Azeroth. Welcome to Geeks of Azeroth, everyone. My name is Patrick, aka Tarly, and with me I have Jake and Thomas. Why don't you guys introduce
Problem
yourselves?
already, but we've got a sentence in. Go on, Jake.
All right.
All right.
Cool thing, yeah. I'm Jake, aka
What's happening? Are
Zool,
you hearing it twice?
and
I was.
I will be
But not
part
anymore.
of Geeks of Azeroth as well.
Welcome.
Okay, just go.
Sorry about
go
that.
intro. People unfortunately already know me. That's a bad thing.
Welcome to
You
Geeks of
probably, guys
Azeroth,
probably know me
everyone.
from
My name is
Happy Geeks
Patrick,
podcast.
aka
I'm Tom.
And with me,
I don't have a cool gamer tag name. Not the one that's not is unfortunately currently held by a 14-year-old girl in Montana, so I can't really use it publicly.
oh come on, what is it? Let's hear it.
And it is Britza, BRITTZA, but the Twitter account I can only presume it's a 14-year-old girl from Montana. She's tweeted 4 things in her life, and one of them was to do with an exam. So whoever you are,
I'll have to meet her because I'm in Montana as well. So there we go.
find out who she is, hunt
I
her
will.
down.
I will make
Like,
sure.
you need to give up that Twitter handle you have there.
Yeah,
Just to settle that confusion there, I had the live stream open on a page that I could not see. I have multiple internet things open and I could not see it. So there was this crazy echo. Got that taken care of though. So let's talk about what we've all been up to if we've been playing World of Warcraft. I'll start with myself. WoW has been kind of in a lull lately, but my raiding team is still active, beating our heads against Garrosh weekly, but we managed to kill him every week. So no heroics done, but we're still playing, still enjoying ourselves. What about you guys? Jake?
Yeah, I haven't been spending too much time in WoW. A little bit here and there. I still haven't gotten a legendary cloak in any of my characters, so I've been trying to plug away at that on my main, which is a troll druid, and I'm on the gathering secrets of the Empire part. But besides that, I've mainly been leveling a couple alts, a warlock and a hunter. Mainly, I've been distracted by the Steam summer sale, resoundingly taking my wallet and beating it to death.
Yes,
It is doing a good chunk out of mine.
What about you, Tom? You've been doing anything in WoW lately?
Not anything special, to be honest. Just failing at being a tank, really. That's seems to be my new hobby. Just not really doing well there. No, I say that I've actually been doing okay, but I was saying to Drakeas yesterday, just before we did the Epic Geeks podcast, that I had a bit of running with the Celestials. I managed to log into a character that I hadn't used for weeks, maybe months, and there was a group just getting ready for Celestials, and I tagged along, and I managed to replace the only 2 bits of 502 gear I had on him with the 553 leggings and the PvP cloak. So I effectively maxed out for LFR just by logging on, which was an amazing experience.
Great, that's always good. Yeah, everyone runs regular Celestials still. Do either of you have your legendary cloaks? Yes,
No.
Jake, you don't? Neither do you, so I'm the only one who runs Ordos in this group regularly. Ordos.
What's Ordos? Where are all these people going to the Timeless Isle?
Yeah, just this big fiery Tauren. I think is a Tauren. Maybe.
I think maybe.
He looks like a Tauren anyway. But moving on, let's go right away to the big news this week. Warlords is officially out of alpha and has moved into beta testing as of yesterday. Big news.
Woo!
Yes.
Hopefully this means some progress. I would hope so. Maybe we could see a release sooner than what we were thinking, but now that we are officially into beta, they have also unveiled their new zone, Tanan Jungle. This is being the introduction quest line for how you will get through the Dark Portal. You come into Tanan Jungle, and you fight off this wave of Iron Horde while you try and shut off the Dark Portal. Ultimately leaving you stuck in Draenor as well.
From the few screenshots I've seen, it looks pretty cool. Like I want to get in there. I want to play around in there.
I'm looking through some of the pictures now, and it's a bit of a mix, because the first pictures I saw was this sort of nice. Well, it was the nice sort of crystal-looking trees. I say crystal tree. That probably doesn't mean a lot, but it would look like this nice tranquil forest. And as I go through, you realise it's actually a real sort of mix of sort of jungle, and it's a bit like a sort of a Zul'Gurub approach to things, really, which I find quite interesting. But other than that, it looks really exciting. But then again, because with all the new character models, it just looks like a completely different game, which I can't get over. I think it just looks so different to anything
Agreed.
else.
Yeah, I've tried
Definitely.
to find relation to Tanan Jungle and what is, I can't even remember the name of it off the top of my Hellfire Peninsula, right? Am I right?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Hellfire.
Yeah.
And the only relevance I see there is just the big platform of the Dark Portal and things rushing up it. I guess they just want to have some kind of enemy always rushing up those stairs. But other than that, it looks totally different, which is awesome, of course. I think the only place we're going to see a resemblance in Draenor to Outland is going to be Nagrand, just because there's going to be really no difference there.
Well, you were saying, Patrick, about how this is tying into the intro to Warlords.
Right,
Before
yeah.
the show, you were saying about how, because apparently it's going to be like Blizzard have promised an hour-long sort of intro, as it were.
Yep. And I'm not sure if this is going to happen pre-patch, like maybe 6.0 you get to do this, or maybe it'll just be...
I hope so.
It might just be that, introductory scene that everybody rushes to once the patch goes, or the actual expansion goes live. But it is going to be a full, like, quest system that I don't think you're actually going to be able to avoid. You have to do this whole introductory where going into Draenor, closing the Dark Portal thing, and then you get to go to either Frostfire Ridge or Shadowmoon Valley, depending on your faction. But I think you have to do this introductory thing first. And then if you're playing on a boosted character, there's also going to be an introductory quest line on how to play your character, kind of like the Death Knight sequence, how you kind of learn your spells as you go.
So I'm wondering, have they said if that's going to be for characters that are newly boosted at that point, or will it also be to characters that were boosted like already right now?
All they've said was it's level 90 boosts, so it could very well be any character you've boosted at all. I'm not sure. They have not actually specified.
Yeah, it makes you wonder as well whether there's going to be whether it's going to be more like proving grounds, in a sense. Is it going to be tied into more the gaming mechanics and sort of teaching you, like, you see these endless waves and these mobs are going out to sort of hold the line, and you're like, oh, some of them are dying, quickly heal them up and use this new spell.
I hope it's something maybe a little bit more interesting than proving grounds, hopefully more than just wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 kind of a thing. I hope it's more like, save this person over here, and we have to run over here and capture this base and learn how to death grip something. I don't know, examples of this and that, but you'd think they'd have to make it somewhat unique for each class type, wouldn't you?
Yeah, if you really want to learn how to play the class, they have so many. Well, they are doing the ability like paring down, so there won't be as many things to teach, but there still are unique things.
And
between
they probably
each class.
won't go through every individual spell that each class has either. Probably just the basic, like what you need for your rotation kind of a thing.
I think they'd at least want to do slightly different setup for each role.
Mhm.
Like this
Oh,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
healing one, this is the DPS one, this is the tank one.
Mhm.
At least that much.
Just seeing this new information, seeing the beta come out, does this make you guys more excited for Warlords? Because I mean, there's been a lack of news for a bit, so just this boost, does this make you guys more excited?
I think everyone's more excited because, in a sense, we were talking just before we went live about how IGN and Wowhead and others were sort of starting to give out beta keys. Now we're in beta mode, and I'm excited really more than anything else because more people can get to see this content. Not just because hopefully one of us at least will be able to see it, but mainly because it's going to start feeling more like an MMO and not just podcasters and family only sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. A lot more people are going to be able to see it. Which hopefully we'll get it more attention. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I'm way more excited just looking at some of the new screenshots they've been showing and more character models coming out. I really want to get back into playing a lot of World of Warcraft, but right now, it's true, there isn't that much to do. So I'm like, oh, I want to play, and I get it, and I'm like, but I kind of don't want to do any of this right now.
Yeah.
So I want that draw to be in game and really enjoying some new stuff.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm also a fan of the book series that come out regularly. Did either of you read the most recent one, War Crimes?
No, but I actually heard a review of it, so in a sense it sort of broke down the story, which obviously there's a lot tied into it.
Yeah,
a lot of expanded lore.
A lot happens. You really get to find out what happens with Garrosh, how he gets away. You get to see his whole trial unfold, and then really, yeah, exactly how he gets to Draenor, and it's very interesting at that. And you find out some things. Spoiler alert! Right now, you find out that the Black Prince is not as loyal as you would think he is.
Well, I never thought he was at all.
Yeah, saw that coming anyway, but
everyone's been kind of like, I really don't trust this guy very much.
So, yeah, to find out he's on Garrosh's side doesn't surprise me at all. Maybe makes me think he's going to be a boss later on. That's a guess, but
that would be interesting, yeah.
There was a hint
I haven't
at
gotten
that.
that one yet. I'm still in the Vol'jin book right now.
Oh, okay, yeah. That was also pretty entertaining. But
There's a lot
I
of
love Vol'jin, so
yeah, that was a good one as well. What were you going to say, Tom?
I was just going to say as well. I mean, in the war crimes, the thing I was seeing the review cover is this. I won't give any spoilers, but there's so much outside of that sort of Garrosh Hellscream story arc. There's a lot involving Sylvanas and her sister, and Anduin plays a huge role in the sort of the whole trial beginning and end. So it makes me wonder about how those characters are going to be impacted through Warlords, because you might not have seen it so much in Mr. Pandaria, but
Sylvanas is kind of missing from Mop, and when you read this book, you'll kind of see she goes through a little transformation herself, and she's going to be very angry going into the Warlords expansion. So
which is just what we need.
Yeah, an angry
Sylvanas again.
Angry Banshee Queen. Oh boy.
Yeah, next expansion, Rise of Sylvanas.
Right?
Calling it now. Episode 1, we're calling next expansion.
Moving on. Another spoiler alert, but I'm pretty sure everyone knows about it by now. The result of Azeroth Choppers looks like we're getting the Horde bike for the Horde. Thankfully, in my opinion, I was happy about that. But he gets up there at the end. I always blank his name. He's kind of like lead Blizzard guy. We see him
Chris Metzen?
No, he always opens up BlizzCon. He's that skinnier guy. What is his name?
Oh, I can't even know. I can't even remember, to be honest.
I'm just trying to go through Blizzard names right now.
Not Tom Shilton, but someone else. Anyway. He gets up there at the very end of the whole, unveiling of who won presentation, and he says, "And you'll get to ride it when Warlords comes out."
Was that Mike Morheim?
Yes, Morheim. It was a Morheim. And then he drops that bomb and then drops the mic, walks off stage like a badass. And we're like, really? We don't get this now?
What?
Never mind.
Well, we had all this hype for it, you really thought we were going to be getting the bike within a week after finding out about it.
Yeah, right. It's like you did all this. By the time it comes out, people will be like, "Oh yeah, they did that show thing."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because we still don't know when it's coming out, so I don't know. This was a bit of a bummer. We thought this would be something maybe to hold us over between the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, it makes me wonder. The there's it kind of in a way. I feel like it cheats out the people who pre-ordered the deluxe version of Warlords because they got a mount as well. So the Horde are getting a free mount. You've got a mount for if you bought the deluxe box, and there's probably going to be a mount, very soon after Warlords comes out. So it makes me wonder, like, how many people are actually going to use this now once the content starts flooding out, and it's kind of.
Well, it is a new ground mount, and you won't be able to fly, so it'll just be a good ground-looking mount at least.
Exactly.
I know I know a few
true.
people who actually returned their deluxe edition of Warlords just because they wouldn't be able to fly, and they said the mount would look ridiculous on the ground.
It doesn't look that bad running around,
That's true.
actually.
That's us trying to cover ourselves, going, I spent my money for a reason.
Right, yeah. But do you guys think the Alliance bike will ever make an appearance, or do you think that one's just going to get scrapped completely?
I think it'll end up on the store.
I don't want it to, though. That just seems so cheeky.
I know.
Say-
I think it will. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think it will. They've been throwing so much stuff on the store.
I honestly think the Alliance should be able to ride the Horde bike. Even though it might be some heresy,
but if they ride through an Alliance like quest hub or town on it, like people throw trash at them.
Yes.
Hey traitor, you're on the wrong thing.
Well, I mean,
It's like when
I
you're
think
at Death
everyone
Knight,
should.
you first enter the cities.
Yeah. I think everyone should just be able to benefit from the whole Azeroth choppers, not just leave everyone. Everyone who plays Alliance, sorry, you don't get anything. I think the Alliance should at least be able to ride the Horde chopper for free, and maybe pay for the bike. I don't know.
Were you guys surprised by the result, though? Because I think a lot of people called Alliance were gonna. They called that one was gonna win just because there's sort of a. Well, there's this kind of like, I know when they released the recent sort of big statistics poster, and there was a very even balance, but people I think that there's ever so slightly more Alliance players than Horde players.
Yeah, I've thought that as well, but if we had to come down to which is the better looking bike, I think that's how people voted rather than voting for their faction. Because there was actually a clear winner when you saw it. It was a very big distinction between which bike won.
Yeah, I think too that there may be more players on the Alliance side, but think of who's playing each side. It tends to be like the younger kids playing Alliance. The ones playing Horde are more active in the community. It's true. So, I have Alliance characters. I play both sides.
Yeah.
But
Traitor.
look at podcasters. Look at popular people in the community. Most of them are Horde. Honestly, the ones that are more active in the type of outside of the game community that are gonna vote on stuff, I'd say more of those are Horde players. And of the Alliance players, not as many of them do stuff outside of the game. Besides, they just play the game.
I think that's a great point, to be honest. I mean, if you go on Alliance LFR, you get a strong sense that there's a lot of younger audience because it dies outside of the summer holidays. You you log in like 1st of September and no one's there.
Yeah.
But no, certainly there's. I think that's a great point. Is that there's almost sense a different demographic with the factions and the ones.
I think it would be cool to see because we've seen the infographic showing there are technically more Alliance players than Horde, but find a way to make an infographic of Alliance versus Horde for people that are active outside of the game and community.
Think back to your first character. I remember my first character. I don't know why, but I chose Alliance. My first WoW character was Alliance.
I'm pretty sure mine was too.
I think that also just a big thing is newcomers will pick Alliance. Not sure why. It just seems more appealing.
Because they're before you know the
guys.
lore and stuff, they're good guys. Exactly. Once you know the lore, it's not so cut and dry. But not knowing it, they're the good guys.
Yeah. So moving on from Azeroth choppers, unless anyone else has a point to add to that.
No.
All right, moving on. It's ending actually. Unfortunately, ending here in a couple days. But we've had the Black Prince buff, the Gaze of the Black Prince, I believe it's called. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding this buff. It could be a good thing because it does boost everything dropped for the legendary quest as well as... Wait, that's all it does. Oh, and 100% bonus reputation with the Black Prince. So supposedly to help boost your legendary quest line. But it's only up for 2 weeks. So the major controversy here is if you were either your main character or your alt character just starting the legendary quest line, you're going to hit that Valor buff, that Valor quest, and you're going to not be able to finish that within the 2 weeks. What do you guys think about that?
It doesn't work out as well as it could have, since there is that cap.
Yeah.
Damage control. It's damage control.
Right.
It's a shame. Go on, sorry.
Like I have it on my main tune, but I've been trying to get it on my monk, and I'm just now at the final collect 12 Titan runestones, and I've gotten 6 this week, and I can't get any more. So I know I'm not gonna be able to finish that before the buff is out, and it's definitely disappointing that they don't have it up for longer.
I think. Sorry, go ahead. Go. No, go on. You
Go
first.
ahead,
Go, Tom. Tom, go.
All right, I'll go first. One of the things, I'll just throw this out quickly. I think one of the things that's really sort of confused people is that it was advertised, as many people know, it was sent out as an email to all customers, and particularly customers who had unsubscribed, that they could get back into their characters, and they could, they said to be legendary, one must obtain a truly legendary cloak. What is a hero without one? Yada 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 yada. And they kind of advertised this as something to get back into WoW. You can get a legendary like the old vanilla days, and I think that's such a strange concept, and that's what people have really picked up on, is that if you're advertising it and it's only for 2 weeks, surely the developers, who are obviously so clued up on so many things, must have known that they're sort of one of their target markets, i.e. people coming back to WoW perhaps for this, are just not going to see the benefits at all. And you have to make it at least a month, which, as we know, is happening is it in the Asian servers?
Asian servers, they get it for a month.
They get it for a month, so they can actually do it. But here in the West, unless you have, as many people have said, unless you have 2,000 Valor and you've done the opening quests, you're never going to see the end of this. You will just miss it, and you'll be, in some sense, it will be like you never had it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. Jake, what were you... Did you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I was going to say, they want people to be able to get the legendary cloak, because it's cool, and it'll be actually helpful. It'll be one of the things that doesn't get immediately replaced by questing greens, and especially since you can randomly get like blues and purples from quests in Warlords. Why don't they just have it go until patch 6.0, till the pre-expansion event?
Right. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It would also make sense too if they made it last. Maybe if you already had one cloak, maybe, then you could have permanent Gaze of the Black Prince for your alts. But I think making it last longer, regardless, like you said, Tom, it's almost like false advertising, because you're not going to be able to get it if you're coming back to the game right now with this buff trying to get your cloak. You're not going to get it. It's literally impossible with the Valor quest.
That's it, and you've got to do. I mean, if you started from the beginning, okay, you've got to get 10 sigils of power. You've got to get 10 sigils of wisdom. And this is throughout the whole quest line. You've got to get 20 secrets of the Empire, and 12 Titan runestones, and then you've got to get your 3,000 Valor. And this is like, you can't. If I told you.
And keep in mind, like, if you go through TOT to get the 20 secrets, you can't go back in the same week to get the 12 runestones. You have to wait till the next week anyway.
Exactly, which just doesn't make sense. It's deliberate. It has to be deliberate. So I don't know if from a business perspective it makes sense. It's and just to throw this out there as well, looking through the US forums, and I don't know whether you guys may have heard this from other players or something, but some people have actually said, there was one guy, Athos, from it doesn't say which realm they're from, but they've said my drop rate for Titan Runestones has actually gone down since Gaze of the Black Prince kicked in. and he says we can all agree this is an absolute load of garbage. And I just think that must really suck if you're rushing to do this and then you're ending up with less. That's horrible.
I mean, it still is RNG.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
Just some people, if they don't get them, they will cry and say, "Oh, well, this buff hates me." But yeah, it's still RNG. You just have a better chance of getting it. And keep in mind, if you're doing LFR, you have less of a chance of getting it than you do normal or flex. You can get them off the first 2 wings in Siege of Orgrimmar. Keep that in mind as well. But yeah, this buff has a lot of controversy around it for these reasons we've discussed. So. Maybe Blizzard will hear the entire community speaking out about this. Please, Blizzard, give us a little more time with this.
They should do the thing like they did with the increased legendary drop in Diablo. Oh, hey, this was so popular, it's permanent.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. We've had Siege of Orgrimmar for a year this August. So, and again, Blizzard promised they would never do this to us again. So, since they went back on that promise, they should at least give us the buff permanently.
Just as a side note, guys, obviously before this we had the Valor buff, and they had that for a week. Was it a week, something like that?
I think it was only a week. Yeah.
What was the point in that? I really don't, because it seemed to me everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, we've managed to cap in 20 minutes," but everyone who did cap probably was going to cap.
They should have. Yeah. They should have upped the Valor cap with that, because
it
really
that's
didn't
it.
make much sense to me either to have it without.
I wonder if they're almost
the
just
cap.
testing their ability to buff different things at different times.
Well, that's it. And then
next week they're gonna buff everyone's attack damage by 300% for a week.
And now every raid team has cleared every wing
on heroic.
Speedrun
exactly.
modes.
Yeah.
But to throw that in, I'll end here. Just to throw in a Valor buff where you're getting Valor twice as fast, and not to increase the cap just after you've added 2 item upgrade levels to all the gear. A full Valor cap now buys you the full upgrades to one item.
Yep.
One item, which is
I got 3
pathetic.
pieces of gear this week. It's gonna take me 3 weeks to get them upgraded.
Exactly. And if you start off, if you're in LFR and you're jumping into this content, you're like, "Oh, I want to also get the cloak and everything." You haven't got a chance. You're never going to see upgrades on that gear ever.
Yeah.
You're talking weeks,
you can
months.
run heroic scenarios repeatedly, but to get your Valor cap. But so yeah, any more notes on that before we move on to the next one?
It sucks.
There was a new piece of news also that dropped yesterday. We don't have it on our show notes, but this is causing a lot of controversy within the community already. They have moved the bases from being in Frostfire Ridge and Shadowmoon to both being on Ashran, the PvP island. The new faction hubs are on the PvP island.
What?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're
not a part of the PvP zone of
Right.
the PvP island.
You're not going to be tagged for PvP or anything while you're there, but they're, instead of being these really big cities with, the portals and everything like we were hoping for, like, I would have loved to have my Alliance characters explore the Black Temple and that be their home. But no, it's now just a small little village in Ashran for each faction.
What is this game? What is going on? This is nothing like what we were promised. First you could put your garrisons everywhere, but now you can put them everywhere as long as they're in one place. And now the 2 factions were split up into zones, but now they're not in separate zones. This is just not the something weird has got to be happening in Blizzard. Someone has just deleted everything, and
They're like, "Ah, crap."
Yeah, they've got the intern's done it again.
With the big backlash. The big backlash, Lore immediately hopped on the forums to say a few things. He said that, well, the cities are still accessible, you can still go there, but the portals and everything are going to be on Ashran. And that doesn't matter to me. I wanted as a player, I wanted my faction home to be in that really big spire of a city in Frostfire Ridge. It was cool. I wanted everyone to be hanging out there, not in a little camp just outside of a massive battlefield.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're level 100. Well, you will be level 100. We don't hang around in villages anymore. That was when we were back in Goldshire, when you're level 10.
Yeah. Yes, you don't.
Now
You
it's
don't make.
cities.
Are we gonna make Goldshire a capital too? I mean,
Well, it is a kind of capital.
I mean, and
right
how
now.
often now are we going to see Alliance players rushing through and trying to storm the city now, or Horde players rushing through? Because it is in this PvP zone. You're going to have all these
Yeah.
people, especially if it's more of a one-sided server. You're going to have the Horde like. "Rawr, rawr." I know they have their technology to even it out while on Ashra, and I just don't know how that's going to work for the capitals.
Does this just to pose this question to you guys, is this going to be very similar then to the Timeless Isle setup, where you have the two camps there, and that's going to be a sort of hub of content in its own right, and then you're expected to obviously go off and do all the main stuff?
I more think it's going to be like the Vale, just a small capital, and they're going to be very right next to each other. Kind of thing. That's how I think it's going to look. Probably similar in size too. It won't be city size like we were all hoping for. It'll just be more like a camp.
Yeah, that's how I pictured it too.
Yeah, and they said lore said that as far as people invading, it won't be any easier than an Alliance player to run over to the Horde shrine and try and invade that way. But I don't know. I can see that being a problem as well. Though the cross-server functionality of Ashran disappears when you go into the faction bases. They're in your own server's faction base. And then once you're in Ashran, you're in the multi-server battle.
That makes
So
sense.
you're out in this battle with a bunch of people, you all run back to your hub, and half of them disappear.
Yes, unless they're in your
Fall back to the key. Oh wait,
where'd they go?
Traitors!
And it just happens that the giant group chasing you are all on your server.
That's it.
And all your teammates were on a different one, so now you're alone.
And then
Crap.
Hopefully the level 105 guards will be able to be enough protection for you.
They just run away.
Well, we can't fight these guys. To me, that was a big bummer. I was really looking forward to having a big capital city again, and so that's kind of a disappointment to me. I'll just hang out in Ogremore like I usually do.
Yeah.
in a city in every bit of content. Because you had obviously Shatrath for Burning Crusade. You had Dalaran.
Yep. Well, and then the Cataclysm, of course, we all just went back to our original capital cities.
Which were trashed.
I kind of liked, the Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King style of having like a big city where both factions were in at once. As opposed to the
that was
separate,
really cool.
Especially considering the storylines often have been the Horde and the Alliance coming together for something, or some sort of mutual purpose, even despite the animosities, which is sort of what's going on here.
And I wonder how
because we're all
Ashran's
trying
going
to drive off the Iron Horde.
How is Ashran going to work into that if we're all united to fight the Iron Horde, yet we're fighting over this island over here that has nothing to do with anything over here?
We're practicing to fight the Iron Horde.
By killing each other. The best practice is fighting amongst ourselves.
Yep.
All right, so moving on from that, a big topic I wanted to talk about this week is how they're going to work out in Warlords is legendaries. We've seen the whole legendary system kind of change throughout the entire course of Warcraft. And a lot of people liked the whole People's Legendary system of Mists of Pandaria. So we're wondering, is that going to work in Warlords of Draenor? We have not seen a thing about legendaries so far in Warlords. What do you guys think?
I'll let Jay go first.
Okay. I really like having this big, long quest line that leads to a legendary that everyone can get. Even though I haven't finished it myself, I like that idea. But I don't like they did that without having more traditional legendaries as well. I think they should have a legendary or whatever, plus the People's Legendary.
Okay, so something that like only one class can get, and then the one for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Like a mix of what they've done in past expansions with what they've done this one.
That's a good idea.
I think the thing is, like, certainly, with this expansion and the end tier content, they've replaced what you're right to say, Jay. It would have been the legendary with that heirloom gear, which goes up to 100. That seems to have been what they've used instead. But I agree with you. That's it would have been great to have actually had Gorehowl, just to be able to pick that up and wield that, or just
Exactly.
That would have been fun. That would have been fun. I know there is another version of Gorehound, this sort of the Shard tainted one that you can get, but it's not a legendary.
Right.
To actually have that weapon has so much lore around it, and that's the thing that sort of built up the
That was a
legendaries.
perfect legendary. It would have been perfect. It matches this expansion.
Yep.
100%, 100%. But Patrick, what do you think about it?
I hadn't even thought, as Jake said, I hadn't even thought about that idea of having two legendaries. I mean, usually in the expansions they do have multiple legendaries anyway. I just hadn't thought about combining the People's Legendary as well as the traditional style legendary. I think that's great if they were to do that. You know, have the traditional be a weapon, like because it's always been a weapon, and then maybe the next one be like a helmet or another cloak.
Yeah,
I like that. But
have it be some armor piece that can have a cool effect, like the cloak, helmet, shoulders, gloves, feet, whatever, with a cool effect.
Yeah, but specifically, I really did like how the People's Legendary worked out the first time. The first time around, your main character, you're going through the expansion and you're getting it throughout the expansion, and at the end, you finally get this cloak, and you're getting like gems and stuff through the way, some benefits, but you get the legendary at the end, and I liked that system. What I don't like is when you're like me and you switch your main character at the end of the expansion, and then you have to go through everything again. I think they should have a system. If they are going to continue with the People's Legendary, they should have a it's like the buff that we have right now. They should just have that for your alts if you have the legendary on one of your tunes already.
Yeah, or even maybe even if it's not a buff, but they just require sort of half of much of most of the things. Like instead of 10, whatever, you only have to get 5, something.
Yeah. And so if they had a mechanism like that, and then plus a real weapon legendary for one type of character, I think that'd be great. Just because the People's Legendary would then give everyone the chance to feel legendary with their character, not because the problem with the other system was everybody wanted to have that experience, and unless you were a caster, you couldn't get the staff, or unless you were a rogue, you couldn't experience this awesome rogue quest line. So
yeah.
Having the People's Legendary was great, but I think it needs some changes, like you've said, Jake, having the other Legendary as well.
I just want to jump in there. Going back to the first point briefly, it seems every expansion has had at least 2 legendaries, and in my mind, I think what they've missed out. You could have had Gorehound and the Thunder King. He has 2 weapons he brings out right towards the end phase of that fight. I think it's Thunder and Lightning, is it? Yeah. I can't remember if that's how they. You could have just done another Twin Blades with that look easily, and that could have been it. Boom, boom, and then you do a People's Legendary, which would have been great. But a question I wanted to ask you guys is: there are rather so many of these. Or there's not so many, but there are legendaries, obviously, that so many people are attached to, both for the lore and for the gameplay, and things like the Twin Blades. You can't transmog them, and you could. So in a sense, they're redundant unless you wanted to just equip low-level gear and walk around with it. So I wanted to ask you guys: is there anything they could do with the old legendaries to make them a bit more relevant in sort of today's WoW? Whether that's making them heirlooms, where you could go to Burning Crusade and get it, and then it levels all the way up to 90. I wouldn't say 100, but it just seems like a way as well they could help to promote that content. People would group up because they'd want to get those weapons again. But I don't know what you guys think.
I can definitely see them allowing them to be transmogged. I think that would be a decent idea. I mean, just because they're legendary, just showing that you have them is always a good thing. Like, because people like showing them off, and if you just have them equipped right now, obviously you can't use them. So obviously, if you could transmog them, I think that just shows alone that you went through the effort to get this legendary anyway. So still, current times, you could be showing that off.
Even if they made it so you could only transmog for the character that actually got it.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, not cross-tune transmog at all, no.
Yeah, not like for your whole account.
But I do, that's an interesting idea that you had though, Tom, but how would that work out for the heirlooms? Like, would you think they'd be account bound? Like, you can go get it on your max level character and then send it to your level 70, or would you have to send your level 70 character through Black Temple to go get it?
all of that. That's it. I don't think you couldn't really transfer it. I don't think because again, everyone would get it, and then it would kind of. I don't think you'd want to kind of bring those legendaries to current level, but in effect making them less legendary, if that made sense, because everyone would have them. You do it with one character and just share them, but
and then
but maybe that I think that's maybe the best idea is if you do it with that character, then you can have it for that character, and or maybe just transmog it. That's it. Just take the transmog off, because I just think these are what's going to happen in when Warlords gets released. What happens to the People's Legendary? Well, what's going to happen there?
Is anyone going to transmog the cloak? Anyone?
I don't have it.
I won't even have it by then. You can have Warlords in 2015 and I still won't have it.
I myself probably... I can't see myself wanting to transmog it. Personally, I find the effect that comes off to be kind of annoying. That's just me, though. But I don't know. I guess... I don't know what's going to happen to it, if they're going to allow that to be transmogged or not.
It brings a question, though. I won't say anything on this, but how do you think they're going to handle legendaries in the future? We're particularly considering there's so many potential bosses ahead of us, and so many options for raid content and things like that. How do you think legendaries are going to be handled in Warlords?
I really think it's up in the air. I mean, there's so many ideas floating around, and there's been nothing talked about. I think, in my opinion, I think it's going to be very similar to how it was in MoP, just because it worked out pretty well. A lot of people did get their legendary, who were active raiders. A lot of people got it. Like I said, I hope they will see that it is kind of an annoyance when you have an alt that you want to raid with, and it is required to have it if you want to be up to par with everyone else on your raid team. Hopefully they'll do something about that for alts, but I have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah, and I just really hope they also bring back the old style legendary. I've never had one of those, but they're awesome to see around when people have those. It's just really cool.
Mm-hmm.
The old style. Do you mean like the old style of getting them, or just the
like have a weapon, have something, and you see like one person have it in your hub, and you're like, that guy's cool.
That's the thing that's missing from WoW in a lot of ways now is you don't really look at people anymore and say, wow, that person's legendary, because a lot of people have the cloak now. You're actually looked down upon if you don't have the cloak right now. So
that's it. That's the interesting thing. Is that with legendaries of old, you would look up to people who had them, but now you're right. People who don't have them get looked down. It's sort of inverse the situation. Because I don't have the cloak, I'm
actually makes it less legendary. It makes it just like, okay, you need this piece of gear, like mandatory, not legendary, and you need your mandatory cloak. They should have told me. Yeah, I would like the feeling of being legendary to come back to WoW, both in like the gear that you get as well as the legendary items.
Considering as well, there's so much lore tied up to this expansion. I mean, imagine how cool it would be if you actually could have a Skull of Gul'dan.
Oh, yes, that would be great.
Or something to do with the Dark Portal. It would be so amazing just to have this lore and just start tapping into it, because it's an alternate universe, so you can technically take the Skull of Gul'dan from that universe and go off.
Yeah. And there's just like all of these warlords, they have like so many of them have unique things about them from way back in the Warcraft, in Warcraft 2 days that you could integrate.
Let's just hope we don't have to run into Illidan again, because we will be prepared this time.
Too prepared.
Yes, we are. We already killed you. Get out.
It'll turn up and we'll be wearing our legendary cloaks and all our,
And you pull out his just weapons and he's just... Wait, what?
A quick...
But I have mine right here.
Quick theory. What do you guys think? How do you think this will end? Do you think we're going to go back to Azeroth and have a changed future? Or do you think we're going to like tie off this this timeline that we make and go back to our own?
I think we're going to tie it off. I don't think they're going to go rewrite everything.
Back from the beginning, we go back and do all of the expansions all over again.
Yes.
Because they're out of ideas.
I think it's going to really... Actually, no, sorry, Tali, I'll let you go first, because I'll leave my point to the end.
Oh, no, I had left off my point there.
Oh, fair enough. I was just going to say that it's... in my dream situation, because of how Warlords ended, you had so much animosity in the Alliance for, barely restrained animosity, just to completely destroy the Horde. I would love it if it got to the stage at the end of the expansion where we'd cleared up and we were ready to leave, and for some reason Varian or Jaina or Turan just decided, screw it, we're going to go through the portal and knock it down and leave the Horde over there. And then some massive struggle. It became a case of, two factions fighting to get out and leave the other one there. I would love to see that sort of last minute PvP just crunch down as everything's falling apart. Maybe this alternate Draenor just falls apart due to the timelines, and it's first one out. I would love to see something like that. Just not end the tier and just leave it like that. I want it to start something.
And then when we come back to our world, something horrible has happened, and we're like, crap.
That's how it always
we just
is.
decimated each other.
See
what it needs to be.
We need to have a peaceful expansion. Like, there is no problems in Azeroth for once.
No, because people really want another Burning Legion thing. So we end, like Tom is saying, we're fighting each other, we're trying to leave one faction behind, and we come back to Azeroth, our Azeroth, and the next expansion, the Burning Invasion.
Yeah, I can totally see that as well. More spoiler alerts if you haven't been paying attention to the lore or the books. Wrathion has continuously been saying that the Burning Legion is coming back. And in the newest book, he says that he believes siding with Garrosh is the way to stop the Burning Legion from coming back. So, if we stop Garrosh in Warlords, we may be allowing the Burning Legion to come back. So, potential 7.0 theories there.
I mean, because when you talk to Wrathion, you have that little image he shows you of Azeroth with all the things sitting, and have that be what happens. We come back to Azeroth, and we see those things falling, and we're like, oh, he was right.
We never catch a break.
This is a crap day.
Because really, only a day has passed back on our actual timeline.
You're right. Yeah.
That's it, a few hours. Or we go back too far. You
guys leave, and we're all screwed instantly.
Yep. All right, so moving on from Legendary, there's a few smaller topics that have come out here within the last few weeks. Talking about, like, the new Tier 17 armor sets. There's been a few of them revealed. I think we're only missing a couple, actually. They've been really interesting. Let me see if I can pull some up while you guys discuss them a little bit. What do you guys think of what you've seen so far?
Go on, Jake. I'll let you go first again.
Some of them look pretty cool. Some of them are which is kind of what happens every time we start seeing them. My main is a druid, so with the druid one, when I first saw it, I was kind of like, well, that's strange. But then when I saw it animated, I liked it a lot more. I think it's kind of cool. With the insect wings flapping around, and I just, like when we were talking yesterday, I want to be able to fly in that armor and not need a mount.
It would be cool to have that sort of level of functionality to it. But
yeah, I mean, because druids have travel form, so they don't need a mount anyways. And so when you activate travel form in that armor, you actually don't shift. You just start flying with it.
That would be interesting.
That would just be awesome. I would have so much fun with that.
Like right here, I've got the, if you can see, I've got the Paladin pulled up. It looks just like the old Justicar tier from the Burning Crusade. And I'm kind of getting a feel across all of the tiers here. Like we have also Warrior, very metal looking. I'm getting a sense that it's all kind of tying back to Burning Crusade a little bit with the themes that we're seeing here, just more buffed up, bigger,
the crystals,
more intense. Let me see if I can find that druid that we were talking about.
I think the one that's really standing out for me, I mean, this might be just because of they're my own classes, as it were. The mage and the warlock look incredible. I think the shaman as well. I really am liking that sort of almost like tornado, wind fury style effect on the shoulder guards. I think all of them, maybe really everything's got something going on. They're just so much more animated, and that's what they've really done well here. I think every single class has an animated tier 17 to some extent, maybe, or
except
at least
Death Knights.
I think.
Except for Death Knights.
Except for Death Knight. But saying that, as a link, you showed me that yesterday, the Death Knight one, and I've come to realise, I think out of all of them, that's the one I like least. I really don't like that one now.
I have always kind of felt like Blizzard just doesn't like the Death Knights anymore. I don't know, as far as tier goes. Their last few just have not been as good. I think ICC had the best Death Knight tier, in my opinion.
And that was the first Death Knight tier, right? No,
No,
well,
The one it started with, or
Nax Ramus was
'cause,
the
I mean,
first Death Knight
oh,
tier.
sorry.
Um,
There's so many people who transmog the original gear they come with,
oh,
or
we
the
lost-
gear you get like within 5 minutes of starting it. So the Ebb and Blade style look.
Did we lose you, Jake?
I'm back.
Okay, we lost your video, but you're still here. There we go.
Yeah, I dropped for a second. There.
Oh, we're holding together. We're just about holding together. But Jake, which just out of curiosity, what classes do you play?
Druid is my main, the first one I got to 90. And then I also got a Priest to 90. And then I boosted a Paladin that I haven't played much. So Druid and Priest are the ones I've spent the most time with.
Yeah, I myself have been playing as my monk. Most of the expansion actually. Well, play my DK most, but switched to my monk, and the monk tier is actually, I'm pulling that up here right now. The monk tier looks rather interesting. It looks very fierce, very. I'd be scared of this if I was facing a monk that looked like this.
They Blizzard did say that they were starting to. They were looking more to the gladiator sets for either for inspiration, or they were going to try and link the two together somehow. I don't know how. Maybe that's part of their plan towards the. When you change specs.
Well, they've
or
actually.
you go.
They've. I'm sorry. They mainly
Oh.
said that the PvP gear and PvE gear are actually going to be the same.
That's it. So I imagine that's what's starting to influence them to an extent. Is they want something that PvP has always had that level of sort of. That very angry, bloodied and battered approach to it, gladiatorial as it were. So I think, obviously, they've had to try and combine the two appearance-wise to match the fact they're going to be the same functional-wise.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Yeah, everything just looks brutal, and I think that's just kind of going along with the theme that this is kind of a brutal place. Everything is very much kind of representing the Horde, honestly, or the orcs.
Do we want to just use the word that they use over and over and over? It's savage.
It's savage, yes. Savage is the word. All
Yes,
the gear is going to be savage, except for paladins. You'll just be glowing. And druids, you'll be looking like a bug.
Yes.
But yeah, you can definitely see an overall theme there. But then also something got data mined this last week. Little icons that you just see, like, spell icons and stuff. But they looked like armor die. So if that's true, what do you guys think about that? If that's even a possibility there?
I want it.
I do too.
I think-
Go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, I think that's a really good idea. There's in some of the, I know as you go from LFR to Flex, the colours of the gear does change, and there are some items which I got the higher level on the Flex gear, but I transmogged it to the LFR version because I just preferred the colour.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, it was a really weird one. Like for my Warlock, I've got the purple glowing horn shoulders. And I can't remember which gear it is, but it's I just preferred the colour of it. And I think if you can do that with a dye,
Yeah,
that would look so much better.
And if
I
you have
think-
like specific transmog pieces that you're like, I love how these shoulders look, but they don't match the rest of what this is. But you can just dye it.
Yes. But I think one thing they'd have to do, because like one of the things with the different tiers being different colors, the actual default colors of the tier sets, those need to be unique colors that you can't get dyes for. So that way you can't get the LFR and dye it to look like the Mythic or whatever.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
think they're to that extent they're also gonna have like the mythic gear have pieces on the gear.
Yeah,
that are
it is
unique
different.
to the mythic as well.
Yeah.
Just so people can
Yeah.
say my gear is better than yours. Ha!
My gear moves more on its own. It's really creepy.
It's got more glowing effects.
Was it you guys? Just to point out, you're right. The druid one does stand out because they've somehow forgotten, as you said, that druids can't be human, and so they really do stand out. I'm looking through every single class, and it all looks absolutely perfectly fine, and then get to druids and like, yeah, they they should be human. That's what looks really wrong.
Are they hinting at something?
Yeah,
that's it,
druids
yeah.
coming.
I just want a gnome druid, and when you go to cat form, you're a house cat. When you go to bear form, you're like a little
panda.
baby bear.
Just a little panda.
Your flight form is just like a pigeon. You're like, oh crap.
That'd be great. So moving on from that, they also released a new art craft this week of the new human models. As you can see here, they look better. They've got a lot more emotion on their face, as with all we've seen from every new race that's come out so far, every new model. But I mean, this one definitely looks strong. I'm seeing a very Varian sense. They there, but that's just a personal opinion.
I think there was actually a post by, who was it? One of the community managers, someone, they actually posted, they're like, the new human models are out, and of course that means we can do armor that showcases their chest hair and nipples. Like, they
Yes.
get that some people are weirded out by it, so they joked about it. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I
like
thought,
like a Geordie Shore, a Jersey Shore like cutout around the
Yeah,
abs. You just show the abs.
Yes.
I thought
Yes.
this image right here of him looked with the two pigtails going down the side of his head. I thought that was a pretty funny facial expression he's making there. But as you can see,
Yeah.
you see
I
the
like how
differences
all the
between.
art-
You just see the differences between the new and the old, and they just look so much stronger, so much. And you can't really see it here, but when they're actually moving and with all the classes, it feels so much better. I had a chance to play it when I was at
Yeah.
BlizzCon. They feel so much better, and it just feels like this is how
Yeah.
it should be with the new graphics. And of course, you can
Yeah,
actually
these guys are built.
yeah. And what's definitely interesting is if you turn your graphics setting on WoW down to low, it actually reverts back to the old character models as well.
Interesting.
Which means I'll never see these new models ever.
Unless you get a PC, Tom.
Unless this is just a depressing week for me. My Mac's just going to burn up in hatred of all of this.
A new column also got revealed, people playing around in the beta, that you have a normal graphics and then you have raid graphics. So you can actually adjust your graphical settings for both. So if you're just out in the world and you want to have it look pretty good, and then if your computer can't handle it with a lot of people, you can have it separate, which I thought that's pretty
And
nice.
all of a sudden, it's the old models.
Right,
When you raid,
Yeah.
old models.
right.
Just to throw it out there, guys, obviously we may or may not have just mentioned already that the trolls and the blood elves are the only ones outstanding at the moment.
We have not seen those yet.
What would you guys expect from it? I mean, like in terms of, would you say that with the blood elves they're gonna just try?
the blood
what do you
elves-
think they're gonna try and do with them?
The Blood Elves are the hardest one for me to imagine, actually, just because I haven't seen anything.
Lorthamar.
Well, even him, like his face, when you look at his face model, he's still the old model. But you look at
Yeah.
Vol'jin, he's all buff, and
Yeah,
his model
you
looks
can
great.
pretty
You
much
can-
imagine
yeah,
what the trolls will look like based off Vol'jin.
yeah. So I just have a hard time imagining what both the male and the female Blood Elves are going to look like. I can't really tell what they're going to look like, honestly. How can they be any prettier
Shinier.
than they already are?
They're just gonna put real faces of actual models on them.
That's it. They're just gonna use
Chris
Channing
Metzen.
Tatum's face or something
I
like
know,
that.
right?
Chris Metzen will be the male Blood Elf. It fits.
That would be horrifying. Absolutely
That'd be
horrifying.
hilarious. That'd be so funny.
No, Jake Gyllenhaal, for real.
Are we doing a casting for the movie or something else?
Right, so we're just looking. The last little note we had here was the development cycle of we've seen it go into beta now. What do you guys think that means for actual release? We had a 3-month beta, I believe it was, for Miss Pandaria.
Was that it?
I believe so. I'm trying to remember when beta started from up.
It wasn't long at all. It really wasn't long at all. It was pretty much, very much like how WildStar did theirs. It was just very much do it, right, it's all cleared up, release.
So potentially, we could be looking at an October release for Warlords. And a September release for 6.0. We could very
When
much
was
see
the-
that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, if the beta's out now and they continue at the progress that they've been making, yeah, September we could see a launch of patch 6.0.
What about you, Jake? When do you think, based on how we're seeing this development now that beta has been announced and we're getting into the second zone and that sort of that dungeon content? Because I've seen a few streams where we're really starting to see the sort of group activities. How long do you think it's going to take?
Well, I want to hear how big of a difference there is from this initial beta build from what the alpha builds have been, because when the alpha started, everyone was saying how unstable it was. They have been saying it's getting more stable, but I want to know if this initial beta build is another huge jump in performance. If it's another big jump and it is a lot better, a lot cleaner, a lot more fleshed out, then yeah, I think a short beta would work. But if it's not that big from what alpha's been, it's going to be longer.
I don't know if you guys remember the Mists of Pandaria beta. Did either of you have a chance to hop in that?
Barely.
I jumped in a little bit, kind of just to check out the panda starting zone,
Yeah.
and that was about it.
I remember like my first experience going into the Jade Forest there. It was a mess. It was a disaster. They did not have it set up at all. I started from the beginning and went up to the end of the beta, and it was a steady progression. So I'm kind of hoping to see that here. I know there's going to be a lot less people in it, so don't be surprised if you don't get a beta invite, people listening to the podcast. Because pretty much,
Yeah.
if you had a credit card, you could get into the Mists of Pandaria beta. But
Just about.
But if it comes out in October, like I'm gonna just flat out predict it. I am going to say I'll bet someone that Warlords is coming out in October.
I disagree.
Do you?
I think I've been looking through some of the forums, and on Wowhead, this was a prediction made back in November 2013. Vimy07 said, I think the only logical release date would be November 23rd, because that would be the 10th anniversary.
That would be a big thing to hit.
I just can't see them. I really just can't see them going through another BlizzCon on the same expansion. I really don't see them doing that.
I can imagine Chris Metzen coming out and just get, he does his usual like Alliance board, and normally there's like cheers and whoops and he just goes absolutely mad. But I can imagine him do it this year and it'd be like, Alliance, are you ready? And he'd be like, yeah.
No one plays your game anymore. No, see, if it comes out as I predict in October, I could see BlizzCon then coming forward with a teaser of the next patch. Because they've been saying for the longest time now that they wanted to get into a yearly dev cycle. So they said even a year ago, they said at BlizzCon, they said that we've got people working on the next expansion after Warlords. So if that's true, and if they're going to eventually keep up with that yearly cycle, we could get a release in October, and then in November have just a little preview of what's to come, because they can't release too much of what's happening or there'd be spoilers for Warlords, but maybe a little teaser of the next expansion.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked the last time we did just a little WoWcast before we got all official like this, that this expansion seems like mainly a huge systems change.
Yep.
They're changing the abilities, they're changing the models. It's a lot of technical stuff.
Yep, stats,
and the story and content side could be a little bit shorter. And with the updated technical side, the stat squish, it could make it easier for them to produce expansions faster. And the main focus of this one could be just that technical side.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
Anything else?
I wonder though. I was just going to say I would prefer it really. I think perhaps there's a consensus that the way they've released content, while before they did it, it would have been the ideal. Fast content keeps people entertained. In hindsight, we realise it's pretty much been a disaster because I'm just touching on normal gear, and even I'm bored of it. And I think it would have been a lot better for them to do things like how they did the Isle of is it Keldanas? Where the Sunwell was. Sorry, I might be pronouncing it wrong. I would have preferred it if they just do I don't mean literal islands as they did then, but figuratively islands of content where we went through Warlords, and then instead of just going right, just beat all the Warlords, say right, you've got to take these 2 Warlords out, and then these, a couple of months later, these 2 are doing something, you've got to take that on, and just really sort of pacing it a bit better and making it feel like it's more consistent blocks of content rather than just feeding it into a meat grinder and hoping people won't chew too quickly.
Yeah, I honestly think they released content too quickly in Mesa Pandaria, which is, people complain it's coming out too slow, then it's coming too fast. But I mean, we went straight from the first tier into TOT, and then we get into Siege, and then we're stuck with it for a
Yeah,
year.
if they would have spaced it out, we wouldn't have been in Siege for as long at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But also, we have to remember, Mob is staggering to me to think that the expansion came out almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've done well in the sense to make content last as long as it is. I mean, from a gaming perspective, it's actually quite incredible. But I think you're right. Because it's such an intense game, and you have to be so immersed in it when you're playing it.
Mm-hmm.
You need it much more quicker than it's happened recently.
Yeah. All right. So, anything else before we close down the show, guys?
I don't think so.
I think we've had a pretty
Free
good show.
legendaries for everyone at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope we get something better this year at BlizzCon. But I mean, got these little guys here, but I want something big. I want a mount that no one else can get in game.
Well,
That's the Alliance Chopper.
Right.
Maybe they'll do that.
Yeah,
The
so
Alliance
everyone-
Chopper for BlizzCon.
I've heard a
BlizzCon
rumor that they're
attendance.
actually going to auction off, or like have a randomly chosen BlizzCon attendee to get the physical bike, the actual bike. I mean, that would
that would be
I
be
heard
really
that.
cool.
That's apparently one of them. They're gonna. There was a rumor that apparently one of them is going to be given away at BlizzCon to an attendee as part of something, and the other one is going to be auctioned off at the dinner, the charity dinner.
Oh yeah, okay,
Well,
So-
if they want to make the most money, they need to auction the Horde one off.
right, yeah.
Probably because no one wants the Alliance one anymore.
I don't
They're
care.
like,
I'd ride that Alliance bike
$10.
all the way back to Montana from California. That'd be awesome.
You'd blind everybody. You'd be causing accidents the whole way.
You probably need a license for a tank as well.
Yeah, I don't even know if those treads work well on concrete. Like, is that stable to drive on the highway?
You're going like 10
I just have
miles
to go
an hour.
off road. Just it'd be safer off road, just through the desert, you know.
I don't want to be the
Which would
guy to
actually
pull
be
you
pretty
over.
cool.
All right, so looks like we're at a closing here. Looks like we've had a good run. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. If you're watching live, thank you. Everyone who watches afterwards, thank you for joining us. We're going to keep this weekly, or maybe bi-weekly. We haven't quite decided on the schedule yet. We've got other shows over at Epic Geeks. But you should definitely follow us on Twitter. I am Tarly_pause with a Z. What are you, Jake?
I am at Zulgeek on Twitter.
And because that girl just won't give me that Twitter account, I am at TC McIlroy. So, girl in Montana, I'm hunting. I'm pretty sure her name's Hannah. So
Hannah
if you're listening,
Montana?
Hannah.
All right, Hannah Montana.
It's
Oh,
not
no.
Hannah. It can't be Hannah. No, maybe I'm making that up then. That's too bad. Hannah from Montana. That's just too bad. That's too bad.
Well, if you have any questions or you want to you can feel free to contact us at epicgeekspodcast@gmail.com. Until then, remember, the Black Prince has his gaze on you. Stay tuned for more. epicgeeks.co.uk.
Wait, where is he?